Okay, David Hart here from the G4 Guitar Teacher Network. What we're going to do today is have what we call a mastermind group, and that's what we're going to actually talk about anything and everything, and really try and sort of project some idea of the future and some ideas, and see how crazy we can get about what the possibilities are. We're living in very exciting times. I don't know. I'll sort of go into this as we get time, but I do want to talk about where things are going, because if we don't look at the future, we don't think about the future, we will become extinct, and that's what happens all the time. And I'm seeing it happening with lots of guitar teachers and lots of music teachers generally. There are those who are thriving and those who are really dying out. They're on the last throes of hanging on to what was a thriving business in their 70s and 80s, 90s even, but now in this new millennium, it's very different. But this is going to be a roundtable affair, so I will sort of jump in if I think it's sort of going too far off track, and not staying on guitar tuition, which is what we're about. But generally, I'm just going to open it up and see where it goes. So this is not, just so you know, this is not a problem-solving seminar or session. Sorry. What we want to be doing is just discussing new ideas, things that we wouldn't normally discuss. So if you've got a problem with a student or something to do with your business or marketing or anything like that, you use those for the other sessions, which will be next week and every other week of the month. But this one is, like I said, a mastermind group. So let me open it up and just sort of get a definition from each of you. I'll just go from left to right, starting with you, Ben. What's your idea of a mastermind group? What should we be doing in a mastermind group?
Good question. I guess.
Well, what do you want to do in a mastermind group? Maybe that's a better question.
Trying to relate it, I don't think I've had a lot of experience in a mastermind group, but obviously, working on different subjects and all that sort of thing, with critiquing all that sort of thing with other things. I've been songwriters work groups and all that sort of thing, where we critique each other's songs and all that sort of thing, but that's not a mastermind group. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. That's okay. Because I have sort of an idea, but again, I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure where we're going to take this. So that's why, I wanted to sort of run around the group and see what each person thinks. Thanks, Ben. That's great. I'll go to the other Ben because you're on my left. I guess you guys have got it in different order. So Ben A and Ben G, I'll call you guys. So Ben A, what's your take?
Well, just an idea, a place for us to get ideas out, but ideas that will either improve the value we can give our students or our business or the whole G4 brand, I guess. Things like the parenting booklet and the app that I mentioned. I think that's something that I'd definitely like to discuss in one of these, just to see if anyone knows anyone, because I think that's a good idea.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, I agree. It's about sort of throwing out new ideas and really, so I've read a bit on this in different areas, and one of the things about these kind of meetings, if you like, mastermind meetings, is that you need to allow people to throw up almost ridiculous ideas, things that most people will laugh or scoff at, because although a lot of those ideas, when you throw them up, are not actually the idea that you'll run with, they actually inspire great ideas. So people sort of bounce off that and they go, okay, well, yeah, that's a bit ridiculous, but how about we do this or do that? And so that's why we want to do it. And I can equate it to songwriting, because I think all of us here have written songs, and you come up with you sort of blend two sort of ideas that wouldn't normally go together, and then you start to play with it and work it and fix the edges, and you end up coming up with something that works. So yeah, that's how I see it. So I'll go to David. David, what's your idea of a mastermind group?
I I would think that, I mean, in a mastermind group, really, we should try and leverage the experience and strengths of all the individuals, because we're all different and we all bring different things to the table. And you just mentioned it, Dave, as well, is that no idea is a stupid idea. You know, it's like everything should be on the table until the consensus decides to take it off, so to speak. So, you know, whatever anybody brings to the table, we all bring individual strengths, weaknesses, and characters. Okay, and we leverage that all, and that becomes your mastermind group.
Right, fantastic. I mean, and that's the thing, is that many ridiculous ideas. I'll give you one example that I read about, and you guys may or may not have heard of. But Steve Jobs came up with the idea of kind of mimicking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where he was going to give some golden tickets away for people to come and visit the factory, the Apple factory, and go through and see how Apple computers are made and all this. And he was going to put a couple of golden tickets inside computers and all this. And there were some legal issues about it, and they were a bit worried about other things as well. But it ended up getting kind of, you know, canned. But at the time, you know, it was a bit of a ridiculous idea. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that Steve Jobs would do, and then that those kind of guys do. They come up with all these kind of, there's lots of ideas like that where lots of things haven't actually panned out, but there are other great ideas that have come from, you know, initially ridiculous notions to where they come up with something that really does work. Joachim, can you give me an idea of what you think the mastermind group is all about?
I was just thinking about anything that you do, like if you just do what everyone else have been doing in the past, then you'll get similar results. So if you do something differently, then you get different results and even better results. So that's what I'm thinking about. You know, you come up with different ideas that way.
Yep. So you can kind of throw your ideas out there and watch how other people sort of bounce off them and evolve them. That's, you know, in my opinion, that's part of what this mastermind group is about. Is sort of saying, oh, well, I've thought about this, but I don't know where to take it, or I don't know if this is a good idea, or, you know, etc. So if we just sort of throw some things out there. So really what we want to do to get the ball going is, does anyone have an idea, or does anyone have a suggestion for something you've been thinking about? Just stick your hand up if you do, that you want to try, or... Okay, I'll go with Ben A, because you put your hand up first, Ben A.
No, let's go with the other Ben. I was just going to mention the app, and then also that thing Paul said about the questionnaire in his email, but we can get to that in a sec. Those are just old questions I was going to mention.
Okay, all right.
After you, Ben.
I was just going. I've spoken to you about it, discussed it with you before, David, via email. Is I want to go in and directly into schools and do you know, free workshops in their lunchtime, just to promote the school to my actual school, not to try to go into their school, but just get more interest within the local area to get within my business.
Okay, yeah. So sort of promote your business within schools.
Yeah, just more awareness.
Yep.
I just think it's just a bit more focused and targeted, more than just doing flyers, random flyers to each house. You know, it's more focused on the target market.
It's good. See, the thing about schools is that schools are great because that's where all the kids and parents, that's the hub. You know, if you look at any network, every network has a hub, hubs, and so that's where, you know, catch a train, it's a train station. That's the hub where everybody comes to catch the train and meet the train. The schools are where all the kids and parents come to meet other parents and teachers, other kids, etc. So that hitting the schools is definitely where we want to be somehow. We want to get our reputation into the schools. The way that we go about it and what we do, that's really what the challenge here. So, and I've got some ideas and things that I've done in the past, but what are some ideas, and anybody, about getting into the schools?
Yeah, yeah. So our local school here, they recently, here in the US, with all the cutbacks, there's a whole bunch of schools here that have cut their music programs. Unfortunately, I'm just now 1 week into the summer vacation period. Okay, but going back, I want to get down there and talk to them about seeing if I can plug that gap for their for their music curriculum, particularly for the guitar side. The other side as well is a number of schools here will have they'll have fairs or fetes, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And the parent teachers, normally the parent teacher association of the school run those. So it's on my agenda for the fall is to get in there and to see, okay, if I can get involved and take a stall at one of these fetes, and you put together a game or something for the kids to play. You can make it music, guitar related, take down a generator or something, have Guitar Hero or something on the Xbox, whatever, offer subscription and things like that. It would need a little bit of setup with some, G4 school banners, blah, 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 but that type of thing to get there. But if you can get in with the parent, whoever runs the Parent Teachers Association of the school, or whatever you call it, depending where you're living, that's a good thing, because also that's in the same areas you're marketing as well, so you get brand familiarity, so they're seeing the name a number of different times.
Yep, fantastic. So if we could, because I guess most people love free, so if we could do something with the schools that was a free offering, where we're not actually, giving everything to them, but we're maybe going into the schools and doing introductory courses where, you go to local school and say, look, we have a special program that's been designed to introduce kids to guitar. I remember when I was at school, they had some lady come and introduce us to playing keyboard, and we were all keen to do it. It was free, and she even supplied the keyboards, but it was only, however many weeks, I can't remember, but it introduced a lot of us to the keyboard. And that's something that, if you went into the schools and offered this as a kind of a free program backed up by G4, a reputable name, a reputable course, and even the 5-week intro in the schools, and then say, okay, if anyone wants to continue, then you come and join our groups at our schools. Even if the school didn't want you promoting or advertising the business, you couldn't help but promote, because they're going to get the materials. It's going to say G4 on it. So
yeah, you just need. The other thing you need is, on my side, I need to get a background check, which the schools will require.
Yeah.
Something you need to think about as well. And then the other thing I did was my local music, or the guy I get the music store I get all my equipment from and everything else, have a great relationship with them. I basically negotiated trade on. I get trade on everything, so I will get trade on acoustic beginners guitars. So I can also offer the guitar. The thought was either to offer the guitar free for the free period, or to offer the ability to rent a guitar for the first 5 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes away that thing of, well, I don't want to spend the money on the guitar, whatever. If I can buy one for, say, Yamaha for 120, I'll get it for probably 60, rent it for 40 or something, and then move it on that way, and then sell it to somebody else at cost to make nothing on it. It also breaks down the barrier of, well, I'd like to try, but I don't want to spend the money on the guitar. Well, I can provide you one for free, or I can provide you one very cheaply.
Yeah. Well, things like here in Australia, the companies, and they probably do it everywhere now, but lots of shops, they offer this kind of zero money down, zero interest or interest free, etc. So people go in and they get a new fridge or a microwave or a TV or something, and they don't need money. They just fill out a form and they get it. And you could literally do the same thing, where you go into the schools and say, look, give you the guitar for 5 weeks. It won't cost you anything. All you need to do is give me a credit card, or put a deposit down. Maybe they can go to your PayPal and put a deposit of $100 or something for the guitar. And then what happens is that after the 5 weeks, you refund the full amount if they bring the guitar back. If they don't bring the guitar back and they want to keep it, then you keep the money. So
yes, good idea.
Yeah, I think if you can do that, it makes it very attractive. You're sort of saying, well, it's all free. We want it to be all easy for you. It's 5 weeks, and then once you've got them sort of, hooked in with the guitar, with the lessons, then you go on from there. And it's really about confidence, because if you can deliver a 5-week intro knowing that you can convert a good percentage of those students into group students, then why wouldn't you do it? It's just an easy walk up. So what are the other challenges around that? Getting into schools. We've got a kind of an idea of a program, and we can present it and market it. What do we have at schools generally when you go to a school and say, hey, I want to come here and teach? Do you think, is it going to be just a walk-in? But they're going to say, sure, come on in.
No.
What do schools normally do?
They'll have some structure that you have to adhere to.
Yeah. They're very, most schools are very kind of, they have gatekeepers and, very kind of protective and defensive about their territory, and they're very wary of salespeople coming in trying to sell stuff, because as you can imagine, we're not the first to come up with this idea. In a lot of cases, they'll just hang up on you. They'll just go, no, we're not interested. So how do we get around that? How do we get around the gatekeepers?
One thing is to just go there to the school and talk to them instead of calling, because if you call, then they're more likely to say no. If you actually meet them and talk to them, that's maybe you get a different answer.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's harder to reject someone who's come into the school. Also, you look better if you can present yourself well. You look professional. You look friendly. You make that contact. Then yeah, you can actually get your chances of getting a result are much better. We know this with enrolling students. The 3 levels that I talk about is 1, email, 2 is phone, which is voice, and 3 is in person. Those 3 levels, you will get a better result when you can get it in person. That's always the best way. If you can't do it in person, phone is the next best bet. Email is your worst, because I'll just delete most of the time, or you'll go to their spam. So, anything else? Any other ways that you can infiltrate schools?
Through referral through existing parents or student parents. You just ask them, inquire with them, and then that'd definitely be an in. If they can give you a good rap to the whoever you need to go to, so that'd be definitely a good connection.
Yeah, exactly. Find contacts amongst your current students. That's how I got into the schools. Yeah, I tried early on to sort of approach the schools. When I was starting out with a couple of different schools, I would sort of ring the school and say, have you got a newsletter I can advertise in, or etc. And some of them said yes, we've got newsletters, but generally they just say, oh no, we've already got a program, thanks very much, or no, we're not interested at the moment, etc. We've got a violin program for the kids, or whatever, or they just sort of fob you off and say, I'll give your name to the music teacher, and if they're interested, they'll ring you back, and they'll get a call back. So the way that I infiltrated schools was exactly like Ben said. I would talk to the parents, and they would say, oh, often I would find out that one of the parents was on the parent committee for the school, or in some cases they were even school teachers at the schools. I had a few situations where they were school teachers. So through them I was able to make a connection, and then I never actually went in and taught in the schools. That was never my intention to teach in the schools. But the idea of going in and doing a beginner program is a very good idea. Just because I didn't do it doesn't mean it's not a great idea. I just preferred not to do that at the time, because I had plenty of students coming in through the channels I had. But I was still in the schools, in the sense that the schools were very aware of me. So much so that the first G4 school that I started, the local school, which had a guitar teacher in there in the first year, by the second year they let the teacher go, because the students were all coming to G4, and so they realised that there wasn't much point in running the program anymore. So this is the kind of thing that you can do, is that and I'm not about trying to kill the competition. I really give competition much thought at all. You know, I might observe and see if they're doing anything worth learning from, but I'm not in the business of trying to knock out competition. But at the same time, you've got to play the game. You've got to be better. And you know, I believe that the way most things go is that they go to whoever is offering the best deal and is serving the market the best. Now, it doesn't always mean that you agree with everything. And I'll use the example of McDonald's. We can look at McDonald's and go, well, they certainly don't serve the best food. It's not healthy, and it's this, that, and the other. But nobody has done the fast food business as well as McDonald's. There's a lot of people that have tried to copy them, and the thing about McDonald's is there are a lot of areas where other businesses dominate in their area. So McDonald's in those particular areas don't do as well when they've got some local strong competition. But overall, as a business, as a network, they've done really well. And there's many reasons behind that, which we don't need to go into. But the idea is that with your businesses, what you're trying to do is really capture the market, the local market, as best you can. And schools are the hubs, and you need to be in the schools one way or another. So has anyone got any examples of approaching schools? Have any of you tried to approach schools or have anything to do with the schools yet? No? Okay. So because I don't want to sort of hog the microphone here, what's some more, how would you go about it? Anybody got some suggestions? What would you do? What's the next step?
Well, my next step really would be to go go directly into the school office. Typically there's a secretary or PA there, and just ask them a direct question, make an introduction, be professional, business card, and try and find the right person to speak to. Just be direct and professional.
Right. So yeah, just do it. And anyone else want to jump in there?
I was going to say something I don't think no one's mentioned free lesson or workshop vouchers for school raffles, which I think I might have heard in one of the audios or read a while back somewhere.
Yeah.
That's always something you can use as a way to let them kind of test it, and it's always valuable for them if they have a school raffle.
Yeah.
Something that they can give away is always appreciated.
And it's a good way to contact the school. It's it's the oldest sales trick in the book is to give something away free. Say, I've got something for you. Can I give you this? And oh, thank you, great. And that opens the conversation.
Have one of your students in their school.
Yeah.
You can say they're already coming to the workshop. I thought I'd offer a free voucher to some of your students.
Exactly. So there was a real trend there for a while. Seems to not sort of happen so much lately, but where you would get samples in your letterbox. A shampoo sample or a detergent sample or something like that. So yeah, giving things away, giving samples of your product away is big. In Japan, it's still huge. In Japan, you walk through the supermarkets, and there's lots of free samples of stuff. You can literally live on the supermarket samples. Just walk through there every day and eat whatever they're offering.
I've given away the vouchers to the local, the P&C committee for their fundraisers and that, and it's worked, and I've got students from it.
Fantastic. Yeah, it worked for me as well. And in fact, I think it was really the first thing I did was get in on with the vouchers. And once you do that, then you also they appreciate it. It's quite interesting because they see it as you being generous, which you're not really being generous. It's a marketing plot, but they see it that way. Yeah.
I also did a performance at one of their school fates, and for that they gave me 6 months worth of free advertising in their newsletter.
Wow, fantastic, excellent. Yeah. Well, maybe Ben, you can do a world tour for all the G4 teachers. Just go around all the locations.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, thanks.
Ben's world tour. Yeah. So look, these are let's go a little bit crazy here. Here's where we can sort of blow this out, and that is that one of my visions for G4 of the future is to actually have a G4 band of guys who slick players, but good performers who are good with kids, can go into the schools, can almost be, I'm not really the Wiggles, but maybe a step up from the Wiggles, a little bit more, kind of a bit cooler, not appealing to the real young kids, but appealing to kind of more primary school age kids. And they could tour around, tour the schools and do gigs and really get the interest of playing in bands and music, and have them play and then have a talk after it, and that be like a promotional band. So that's something I was thinking about for the future. Okay, so let me digress onto something a bit different that hopefully will get you guys thinking. Where do you think guitar learning will be in 10 years from now? How do you think people will be learning guitar?
I would think virtual, online. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. David, you go.
Someone else had it. I said virtually. It'll be online in some way, in some form of virtual classroom. Has to be.
Yeah. Everyone agree? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and just when you talk, just stick your hand up first, and then I'll say your name, just so it doesn't get confusing. So how will that work? What will happen? How will people actually connect virtually? Give me some more details. Anybody? Yep. Ben A. Sorry.
Well, there's the Skype and the Hangouts, but then maybe most people will have many webcams, and if the teacher has a number of webcams, then just point them in the right places and get lots of different angles. That could be even better than a group workshop, because obviously sometimes you kind of hold the guitar up and show things, then turn it around and show different angles, whereas if you can just go swap to this camera, swap to this camera, swap to this screen, everyone can see this handout. It means everyone can have all the resources at their fingertips, and everything will be easy to move around. So I'd imagine if you're offering lessons, it'd be reasonably similar, just with a few tweaks, sometimes making it better, sometimes making it a little slower.
Right. So you almost have, like, several cameras, a GoPro camera kind of thing on the guitar neck, so you can see their fingers right up close.
Yeah.
You could even have the guitar with sensors, so you can tell whether they're actually pressing in the right places.
Mm-hmm. Better on the light up fingerboards.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Have a light up fingerboard, and tell them, say, I want you to put your fingers on the green lights, and you're going to go from the green to the red for me. David.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you check out YouTube or TrueFire, there are some really good instructors on there, and the piece that they're missing, which we're speaking about, which is the value of lessons, is they just teach at you and not with you. So if you look at what they're doing, there's some really, I can't remember the exact guys now, there's a whole bunch of them, but they have some really good camera angles, and the production is really well. So if you took their production value and how they're doing it, and you could create a virtual classroom that is more collaborative and with the student as opposed to at the student, that's really where you need to be, because YouTube and TrueFire are great, but they very much are teaching at you, not with you.
Right. So, totally agree. So what we need to do is, if we're going to get a kind of a first mover advantage on this, because that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that we need to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve and be planning for what's going to happen in 5 and 10 years, rather than waiting for it to arrive, and then going, oh damn, we missed the boat, which is what's going to happen to most people. So these sort of, if we take something like TrueFire, or I think Ultimate Guitar as a website, it doesn't have a lot to offer, but they had that kind of first mover advantage as a website for guitar. Tab, they were the first to see that, and so they jumped in. They just haven't taken it really beyond that starting point. They didn't look at the next 5 years. They just looked at that first, or they just got lucky, one or the other. But
they are very slowly moving on.
What's that?
They were very slowly moving on. At first they had different versions, then they had the drop-down menu so you could choose the best rated version, and now they've started putting video lessons in that drop-down. Don't know if that's recent, but they're definitely starting to move toward video lessons a little bit.
Yeah, it's starting to improve it. And for me, I kind of lost interest in it a long time ago, but you know, it keeps appearing at the top of the search engines, and that's where they really got that first mover advantage there. So what we want to do is be able to really, and we don't have to win, so to speak, or be number one. We just have to make sure that we stay in the game, and that's really and that's part of what, you know, I want to spend a bit of time in these mastermind groups each time, is trying to see where it's going and see what you guys are thinking, and just from that, you know, especially what David just said then, is that if we can have a high quality interaction with students, if we could be looking at how do we get that quality of camera angles and etc., but with the student on the other end collaborating. Yes, Ben?
Well, slightly, just because I'm still thinking about the app, if we had some kind of phone clip-on thing that you could clip up there on the end of the, so if you've got your guitar there up on the headstock, that looks down the neck perfectly, that'd give you a good angle to check whether they're using fingertips or if they're muffling things. And then a standard camera could be good for one thing, but then I don't know about how you can get a good picking hand angle.
Yeah.
But some form of clips and stands could be useful if we could find a way to do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and yeah, I think having a camera maybe that could, because cameras, they're getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. They're going to get to the point where a camera is going to cost next to nothing, and a lot of things are going to cost next to nothing in the coming years because of, you know, technology. But we could have a thing like maybe a glove, a very thin, light glove with sensors on it that could go onto the guitar, where we could actually then see what their hand's doing and read what their hand's doing. And I know probably still got a few years before we can do something like that, but if we kind of are on top of it and aware of it, then we can move towards having something that'll do that. So have any of you done some online teaching at all?
I've done a bit.
Okay. And what do you find at the moment, David, the main challenges?
The main challenge is the main challenge really is the bandwidth that you have with the student. If the student has good bandwidth, it's a lot easier than somebody who doesn't. I mean, dial-up is a no-go, you know, for example. But yeah, it very much depends on the bandwidth. Because if it starts buffering, then you run into problems.
Yeah, and they lose interest pretty quickly too, I'd imagine, if you know, constantly dropping out. So all that'll go away, you know, probably in the next 5 years. How many of you, does anyone here aware of Ray Kurzweil? Have you heard of him? No. Okay, have you heard of the Kurzweil keyboards? Anybody heard of those? The actual keyboards? No. Kurzweil keyboards were the first keyboards that really gave true sounds. So, you know, back in the 80s, when the first sort of Kurzweil keyboard came out, and you played sort of violins and strings and you know, whatever, it sounded like the real samples, and you were like, wow, this is amazing. And so they were kind of the first keyboards to really do that, and then everybody else jumped on the bandwagon. It's a bit like, you know, the first smartphone was the iPhone, and then, you know, Samsung and everybody else jumps on the bandwagon, and it's just so. Today, you know, they're in your computer. You know, you listen to even GarageBand and all the sound, you know, even, you know, 10 times better than they did back then. So, but anyway, Ray Kurzweil, although his father was a serious musician and a very successful musician in America, but so he comes from a musical background, but he is actually a futurist and an inventor, and he is the world's leading futurist. And he is now been taken on by Google about a year ago as the head engineer, and Google have really put him in charge of planning for the future as to what's going to come. He wrote a book, 25 odd years ago or something, and it's something I think more than, what was it, 83%, I think from memory, of his predictions have come true. And many of his predictions he was slammed for, told that they're ridiculous, that will never happen. For instance, one of his predictions was that the computer would beat the world's best chess player. And I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but it was probably about 5 years ago now. The Big Blue, which was the IBM computer, took on the world's #1 chess player and beat him no problem. And so that was kind of one of Kurzweil's predictions. And this is back. You've got to remember, this is back when the computer was like a calculator. He was predicting these things as coming, and he was pretty well spot on. I think he was almost to the year. He was spot on. He also predicted the decoding of the genome. So basically, when he said it, just about everybody at the time, he predicted it to take about 15 years, I think, from the point that he said it, which was back in the late 70s or early 80s. And most people said, no, it'll take hundreds of years. At the rate that we're moving, it's going to take 500 or maybe 1,000 years before we get to that point where we can do it. And he said, no, it'll happen because you're not calculating what's called exponential growth. And so he calculated it to be around 15 years, and it ended up taking 7 years, I think, from the time that he predicted it. It took even half the time that he predicted, and that just blew everybody away. So the reason I want to talk about this is because the changes that we're going to see in the next 20 to 30 years are going to be probably much more than you expect, much more than most people expect. Because the thing about exponential growth, can anyone define what exponential growth is? Anyone tell me what exponential growth?
Is it called a geometric progression?
Yeah, so give me an example.
It's something that increases by, well, the simplest way to say it is by a multiplication each time. So instead of add this, it's times this, times this. Yeah. So you get the curve rather than a straight line on a graph.
Exactly. So if you move 30 steps, so let's say you take a month and every day of the month you step forward, 1 step, you end up 30 steps, from where you started. What happens if you double 30 times? What do you get to? What number would you arrive if you started with 1 and doubled it 30 times over the month?
Too large for me to do off the top of my head.
Okay. So, any guesses? Anyone can even guess? It's pretty hard, right? It's a billion. Okay. If you go 30 steps, you go a billion. Now, I'll just explain something very quickly to you, just to give you an idea of, to put things in perspective, because this is something we, as Ray Kurzweil explains it, we are linear thinking. In other words, if we go back to our kind of history, if you were 10,000 or 100,000 years ago living out in the savannah of Africa, then you would see a lion going this way while you're going this way, and you know that if you keep going this way and going this way, you're going to meet the lion, and then you're going to get eaten. So you realise, okay, well, I better go this way. That's the way that we think, right? We think that everything progresses in this kind of almost straight line. We don't think exponentially, but evolution is exponential. And I'll give some examples. The Big Bang happened 15.5 billion years ago. It then took, then to the 10 billion year mark, the Milky Way formed. 4 billion years ago, the origin of life began on this planet. And then 2 billion years ago, photosynthetic plants started. And then each time basically halving down, you sort of get to the Cambrian explosion, then you get to mammals, you get to sort of, flowering plants. And then we had You know, 50 million years ago, the asteroid that hit the planet and knocked out all the dinosaurs, which then laid the foundation for the first humanoids, which is really us, where we came from. And then you sort of progress to the chimpanzees 5 million years ago. Homo sapiens emerged about 550,000 years ago, and so you can see it's halving. All right, this is what's happening each time, and it's not exactly half, but it's roughly around that. You get to sort of 200,000 years ago, and the differentiation between human types of DNA occurred 100,000 years ago. Modern humans, which are us, and that's the earliest records of burying people. So we actually had that kind of human attachment, the feeling for each other. To where 35,000 years ago, they had the first kind of drawings on rocks and caves started occurring, which was where really the first opportunity for us to sort of leave our mark and to even pass on messages to one another. And then the invention of agriculture 20,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, we started using fires and building cities, etc., etc., etc. So to bring this down, then we get to the last kind of stage of it. It's sort of closer to where we are. If we go back to 1780 is kind of the official year that they say that the Industrial Revolution started, which was the steam engine. So the first real kind of engine that meant that machines could do things rather than us. To about 1900, when modern physics came about, things like radio electricity, etc. And then we go to 50 years ago, they discovered DNA, and then the internet in 1993. Things like the human genome was sequenced in 2005. And then we've got the iPhone, and then we've got things like Bitcoin, which I know you guys probably don't know a lot about and why it's so significant, but I won't go into that. And then, the iPad in 2010. The first synthetic organ transplant was done in 2011. And it's exploding. So the advancements that are taking, as Ray Kurzweil said, the advancement that we've made in the last 100 years, in the next 100 years will be 20,000 times that advancement. So things are getting faster and faster and faster, and as the whole planet connects and information gets stored, for example, the amount of information that's gathered on through today is doubling at a rate of every 6 months. It doubles the amount of information. They say that you were to put a stack of books on top of each other, they would go all the way to Pluto and back again. The amount of information that's now on the internet, they would go all the way to Pluto and back again 80 times. That's how much information is on the internet. Okay, and that's doubling every 6 months. So let me throw the question at you guys. Where is this going to go? Where are we going to go in the next 20, 30, 50 years? Any clue? What's that?
We'll be in trouble. We're not getting big enough hard drives at the speed if we're doubling the internet every 6 months. What's Moore's law? Every 18 months we double in size or halve in speed or size. But size being capacity, but then size being physical.
Yeah, Moore's law basically says that we can shrink, so we can get more information on a smaller and smaller chip. So the size, you think about what's available today, as far
terabytes.
As terabytes. What was the last term I saw?
Petabytes.
David, sorry.
Peda, P-E-D-A, petabytes.
Petabytes, yeah, and they've even gone beyond that, exabytes or something like that. It's called.
That's our suspect.
It's just getting, So the growth in this is exponential, and this is what people are not understanding. This is what most people are, because we're not geared for this kind of exponential growth. As this is the example they give. If you put a lily pad on a pond, all right, and that lily pad doubles every time, like every day it doubles. For 30 days it doubles to the point where after 30 days the whole lily pond is covered. On the 29th day, how much of that lily pad is covered?
The pond is covered.
What's that?
So how much of the pond is covered?
Yeah, on the 29th day.
Half of it?
Half of it, exactly. All right? So every time it goes exponentially, what took 100 years, say, to happen, or took 1,000 years to happen, will take 500 years to happen, and then the next will take 250 years to happen, etc., etc. So we're at that point where each time the progress is happening in half the time. So it's getting quicker and quicker and quicker. So what this means for us is a couple of things. One is that we're going to reach a point which they call the singularity, which is where there's going to be this explosion of technology that's going to be happening so quick. And it seems almost, how can I say, like science fiction. It just seems like, nah, it's never happened like that, and it won't happen like that, etc., etc. And who knows? Nobody knows the future for sure. It could self-implode or whatever. But the fact is that my main point in this conversation is that, and to sort of open up your thinking, is things are going to progress faster than you probably think. They may progress slower than other people think, maybe slower than Kurzweil thinks, but they are probably going to progress faster than most people think. So if we want to get ahead of the curve, we need to see where this is going. And I've actually done a fair bit of research on it and looked at lots of different people, many of the top physicists, people like Michio Kaku, who speaks in length on it. But things like, the cameras that you're talking about there, that won't take as long as you think. Probably within the next 5 to 10 years, you'll be able to hook up multiple cameras around the room. The thing is that when chips get to be so cheap, and that's the next stage, is that they can put them in your clothes, they can build them into everything. Everything will have a chip in it. So the whole guitar will be filled with chips. And so people will plug that into their computer, and then you can sense what they're doing from your end. So that's where I think it's going. That's my opinion. I think that we'll get to a point where we'll be able to plug the students in to the system. And so really what I want to do is just get you guys aware of this technology that's coming so that we can tap into it quickly and not miss the boat and not be trying to teach the old traditional way of come to my house and I'll show you how to play guitar, because that, of course, won't last for very long. And there'll still be people that want to do it. I still think that it'll be, because all that technology goes fast, people don't always change that quickly. So parents who have kids today grew up going to their guitar teacher, so they're probably going to do the same thing for their kids. So it's not that your schools will suddenly be not working and the whole old model will go. It won't go that quickly, but these other technologies will open you up to the whole world. If you think about that, we've got all these other countries coming online, and I don't know if you realise, but China just came out with a smartphone, cost $25, which they're going to market throughout Africa and those, even to the people in China who have sort of lower incomes or Asia. So you're going to have all billions of people coming online and coming into, this means the market's going to really open up. There's going to be a lot more opportunity, a lot more students once we go to this online situation. So how do we prepare? That's I've said my bit. How do we prepare? What do we do? Ben? Yep.
I think the main thing is thinking about ways in which we can still have the value that we need, because when you're talking about plugging the students into the G4 matrix, there's still, I think the audio software is going to get there before then, that's going to be able to tell them what they're doing wrong just by hearing it. So it'll work out what fret buzz sounds like when you're not putting your finger down enough, and then what it sounds like when you're directly on the fret. And then what it sounds like, this is the string that I should be hearing. I'm not hearing for example, a G, C, E. I'm only hearing G, C. So you must be muting that E string. Did you not click it, or did you mute it with your left hand? And based on the sound, it'll be able to tell them that. So at the moment, the more the computers can do, the more our feedback side becomes valuable. But whilst the computers can do the feedback, we need to find another way to add value other than just the connection and the motivation, and because that's all we've got at the moment, if it does become able to offer the feedback.
Yeah, brilliant. So what other reasons will people want to learn guitar with somebody else, a teacher, or why would they want to join G4 Guitar? If they can get some,
make more creative options, don't you?
Yeah. Okay. You've got to
stay
get
ahead.
Yeah. So, has anyone got any examples? Ben Gunn, let's take you 20 years into the future. You know, you've got,
Whether you like it or not.
whether you like it or not, we've just stuck you into the time machine. So you're 20 years in the future. What do you think that you can offer? You've got all this AI out there, artificial intelligence. People can learn guitar by just talking to their AI. The AI does it all for them. They plug into everybody in history. You know, they can have Jimi Hendrix showing them how to do it. They can have whoever. So they don't really need you or I to be teaching them guitar. What are we going to be doing?
Well, the end of the day, you know, they still need accountability and motivation, and we still act as coaches and counsellors, you know, to keep them going and driven. You know, where it's so easy for them, because obviously the more difficult the program gets for them, the more they need reassurance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely one of the big things. I think that kind of mentoring and coaching is something that, look, I wouldn't discount the fact that AI will eventually be able to do that as well. But at this stage, I don't think it's going to happen. It's going to be one of those things that will come later. You know, but in the next 20 years, probably not. We will still be in the best people for that job. So yeah, mentoring, coaching, that's great. Anything else?
Even if the AI does come, I don't think people will feel comfortable with it straight away.
Okay.
We'll have a good overlap period where people just think, oh, I don't want to be encouraged by my computer. That makes it feel less genuine when you know it's done digitally.
Exactly. It's when it's artificial, you're still thinking, there's a thing called the Turing test. I don't know if you've heard of that, but the Turing test is where they actually get people who are professionals, like professors and whatever, to talk to computers and people, and they've got to actually say which was the computer and which was the person. So in the last round that they did, about 30% of the AI, which was a 13-year-old boy, by the way, it wasn't an adult, but they were 30% of the time they thought it was a real person. So that gives you an idea of how quickly it's progressing. Yahoo have already bought one of the main developers of this, and there's some banks that are onto it as well, where you're going to ring up the bank, and instead of talking to a bank person, to an actual person working at the bank, you're going to be talking to AI, and it's going to pick up all the inflections on your voice. It's going to tell whether you're frustrated or upset, and it's going to know how to respond to you and direct you to the right ways. And at first it'll be cumbersome, but then it'll just get better and better and better, and it'll learn. And so these things are coming. This is why I'm having this conversation. Is because we can think outside the box. Because with everything also comes lots of opportunity. There's always a ton of opportunity available. So we've got the mentoring, coaching, the real person, the physical person. It's going to be a while before AI will do that. Before you might be able to convince me on a phone or through a computer, but to convince me with a real person sitting there, I'm looking at this robot. It's going to take a while before that happens. So I think we're pretty safe there for a while. Is there anything else? Is that going to be our only thing?
Standard creativities like songs and stuff. We'll probably start adding more. Like, obviously, hopefully, we're all slightly teaching. I'm sorry, I keep talking. David, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to mention is that I mean, in particular, playing the guitar. Yes, you can sit in your bedroom, whatever, and you can play yourself to death. But it becomes a very social thing. You know, you take it to a campsite, you take it to a barbecue or something. You get some buddies around with some beers. You pick up a guitar, whatever. It becomes a very social, interactive thing. And if you leverage that, and again with the group lessons and stuff, that starts to foster this. You know, social interaction you need to have with it. You can't really be, if you play piano, there's not very much you can do. You can't get your buddies around with their pianos to do it. It becomes something that's very transportable, and that's a very very attractive aspect to it. That is a definitely plus even from a sales point of view.
Yeah.
But we can't lose AI. Learning online, I think, will come. Learning online will get better, get more interactive, but it won't replace that social interaction that the guitar fits right into, because it's a relatively cheap instrument. It's that's one of the beauties of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The social, and that was really the big one that I was looking for. Is that social interaction? You know, people don't use Facebook because they think it's got great features. You know, they use it to be social. They use it to connect with other people and their friends. So the social aspect is something that's going to be huge, and I think that's, you know, again, that's where the group lessons come into it. Is that there's going to be this move towards a social trend. People will be able to teach themselves to play guitar online with AI, no problem. That will happen in the next 10 years. I'm quite confident about that. It's already happening. For every student that rings you, there's 9 who are probably learning on YouTube by themselves without you.
Right.
That's the facts. So the reality is that it's the social element that we want. We want to turn G4 into a social platform. We want G4 to be a place where people connect and do things together and play together and learn together. So that's what I'm thinking. That's where we want to head. Would everyone agree with that? Ben?
Yeah.
Yep, Ben.
Yeah, you could even, have social hangouts for people that are on particular levels. You know, who else is on this level anywhere in the world, and they can get together and have a jam. Yeah, pretty
Fantastic.
cool.
Yeah,
exactly.
In fact, Fender came out with something maybe 18 months ago. Fender started to promote a virtual rehearsal software. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was quite active. You could be anywhere in the world and actually participate in a rehearsal and make it work. And it was a very interesting concept.
Yeah. Well, see, they're the kind of things that we need to sort of be aware of and looking at, and sort of saying, how can we get involved in this? And that's where the G4 platform is, that we know the levels. We know where people are at, so we can say, you're a level 2, you're a level 3, or dude, you're working on this song at the moment. Go on tonight. There'll be a hangout specifically on this song for you, or specifically on level 2, junior level 2 arpeggios, or senior level 2, whatever. So we can start having it that, and this is where, again, I'm thinking further down the line. This is not right now. This is just the future. But things like where you guys can really. You recruit members, so you become almost like affiliates, where you can sign anyone up anywhere in the world. So they become a member of G4 through your link, and then you can, like I said, recruit students from anywhere in the world. And then what happens is that each of us contribute. So by having this network of guitar teachers, then you might specialize, like Ben does country music, so Ben might run a Monday night country class, country music, and then anyone can sort of hook into that. No matter where they are, what member they are, they can join and do that. We might even have micropayments where they can join Ben's group and pay $1 or $2, and or tune into Ben's channel. So there might be 1,000 people around the world, because as we grow, this is important to understand, this is exponential. When we get to, say, 1,000 teachers who each have 100, 200, 300 students on their books, we're talking hundreds of thousands of students worldwide who are hooked into our system. And then what you do is then you as a G4 franchisee can offer something that they can hook into, and they can say, well, yeah, I want to do the country groups as well, and so then they pay an extra $1. They sign up with one member. So, for example, they sign up with David, and they are his student. They pay a membership fee to David, but then they can go and join Ben's channel or Joachim's channel or whoever's channel and tune into whatever's going on there, and pay an extra amount for that to join that channel. Subscribe, if you like, for an extra $10 a month to that particular channel. So that's the kind of way that I see it going. Yes, Ben. Okay, Ben A.
It wouldn't be that hard for us to allow people to pay a small amount and observe the workshops as they happen, would it? Like Joachim's workshop. It works. Well, I say your workshop, or maybe Elliot thought of it as his workshop, but we could have watched that quite easily as students, and from that camera angle I could hear everything he was doing, see everything he was doing. There were no problems. So while it might not feel as valuable as being there, you could easily half the value, and I think people would see a lot of good in it.
Exactly. That could be something where anyone has a workshop. Next time, let's see if we can do it. Let's set it up live.
Get the whole G4 network students available.
Yeah, students can. What they can do is that you can do it in a couple of ways. One is that you could do it so that you charge them to participate in that. So what you do is you send it out we send it out to everyone on the list, and we say, if you want to join this workshop, you can either, if you come to the workshop, it's $45. If you want to go online, it's only $5, and you can join the the workshop, and then that way, it helps Joachim with his business. It gives him more money, and then he can use that money to maybe get a better camera next time, get a HD camera, maybe get 2 cameras, filming it from different angles, and allow people to switch. Yeah, so lots of different things. You can have different levels where people could watch it, for $1, or they can pay $5 where they get to interact, where they can actually ask questions, or yeah. David, yep.
Sorry, guys, I've got to split. I'm playing tonight, so I need to get going. I've got to get on the road.
No worries. Yep. Thanks for coming by, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
All right, catch you next time. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay, so yeah, so there's. I think. So what we want to do is we do want to take it in steps, even though we're sort of looking at the future and what's coming. We don't want to just hang around and wait for it to come. What we want to do is take small steps in between. So maybe, Joachim, when's your next workshop? What have you got planned?
It's on the 27th.
Okay. Is that the charity one, or that's not the
No, that's
charity?
for Elliot's workshop. He's doing it's called a meditation workshop. So he's how he explained it was using a synthesizer to play a chord, and you play the notes of the chord across the neck and on each string, so you can get a feel of all the notes on the chord.
I had to talk to him about that. Yep, cool. All right, great. What we might want to do, you did the 4-chord workshop, right?
Yeah.
How did that go? Did you get a reasonable turnout?
That was good. Yeah, it was good. Got 11 students coming.
Okay. Because I think maybe something more popular, just to start with. I like what Elliot's doing. It's just if we can get something that's going to be really popular. And I think I know from my blogs that's the most popular blog. I've got a thing called 3 and 4 chord songs, and it's the #1 blog that gets read. So perhaps if we could do something like that, have a workshop again. If you could let me know when you could do that workshop again. No rush, but just whenever you can get around to it. Then maybe we could trial it with that, do a live cast, and even send out, where we say it will cost you this much, but we're going to give you a free voucher for the first one, because I think it's probably a good idea to do that just for the first one, just to see, you know, people respond and are interested in it, just to get the ball rolling. And you know, I've got a big list. We've got obviously our Facebook, and we've got all the other teachers who've got their students, and this adds value for them. They could say to their students, look, normally it will cost you $10 to join these workshops, but I've got a special voucher with a code for you. Just here it is, bang, use your code, and then yeah, go on to the workshop. And that would be interesting, because it'll just allow us to see, and then if they like it, then when you do another workshop, and we can even have votes where we can say, what kind of workshop would you like? You know, get some feedback from students. So,
what like, you know, software or program can you use for everyone to join? So because it's be a big number of people, hopefully.
Yeah. In the case of, and this is where it's good, in the case of this now, this is live. Anybody in the world can tune into what we're talking about here now. It's just a YouTube, Google. Now this is the Hangout, but there's two levels. There's one where you get invited to join the Hangout, and there's a limit. I can only invite 9 people on here, because we can only have 10 people at once. So that's the limit of invitees. So that's where your ticket sales come into it, and you go, well, we only have 9 tickets available, therefore it's going to cost, you know, you can even set it at a higher price once you get popular. You can say, to get an actual participation, to be involved in the workshop, this is what it's going to cost. Look, eventually I could see it going to a workshop where you don't even have a class in live, you just do it online. Yes, Ben?
How could the people who are invited online participate?
The ones who are like you guys, you can see you're participating, but the other people who are viewing it, who are just tuned on into the link, see, because people don't know about this unless I let them know about it. So even though I'm just going to have a look here, hang on a sec, because I've never done this before. Hang on
You probably need someone manning the computer as well as someone else doing the workshop. And the camera for that computer is pointed at the workshop, but the person who's controlling it can receive questions in the chat thing and then answer any questions. Because if you have, for example, you were filming when Elliot was doing the Queen workshop, weren't you?
Yeah.
So if you're going to control the computer, anyone who asks any questions, you can answer the questions there. Or if it's something you think would be worth asking to Elliot so the whole group can hear and anyone watching. And then there's a filter rather than the people just shouting out of their computer speakers during the workshop.
Okay, sorry, I was just tuning out there for a minute because I was doing something. Can you guys see this link in the text, the chat box?
Yeah.
Okay, that link, just click on it.
Oh, that's why I heard myself.
Yes. It will take you to the video, the live.
So if you're going to control the computer, anyone who asks any questions, you can answer the questions there. Or if it's something you think would be worth asking to Elliot so the whole group can hear and anyone watching. Thanks for that, David. Rather than people just shouting.
You can close it now, but just giving you the idea. So you can send that link to anybody, and they can view in here.
Is there a way to make that paying? Or would you say accept PayPal payment, then you'll send them the link, and then?
Yeah, you just
like a landing page.
Yeah, you just send them a link, or a landing page. You can even embed it into a page, and yeah, you can have a kind of a password where they get in to the page.
Are there multi-channel camera devices you can get? So if you've got, say, 4 cameras, that you can select between each camera, then you would hook up to your stream.
Interactive YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Wouldn't there be some sort of hub you can get where you could plug all your? Obviously, you can't do it within YouTube, but you could have a device where you can select between each camera as you need to.
Do you mean the students are selecting the cameras?
No, you would. I don't think they'd be able to. But because you'd need some sort of multi-channel setup with a program that would be able to interact with YouTube, which I'm sure they wouldn't allow. But you could be,
Well, they could have a different stream.
You'd be able to do it yourself, you know, and say, hey, I'll put my fingers in this, and then flick to a new camera. Sure, I'm sure there'd be devices out where you could do that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there is. And look, we're running one stream here. I could quite easily set up another stream. Just get my laptop here and start a new one. Do you know what I mean? And then send you 2 links. And if you've got, you just need 2 browsers open.
Links 1, 2, and 3.
You can be watching this. You're looking at me here, and you also can go and look at, you know, the visual. And then it's really infinite. It's just down to bandwidth. It's really how much your computer can handle.
So that would take up more bandwidth, though, wouldn't it? If you had 2 browsers open. Yeah.
Yep. That's right.
So
That's right.
If you had a device where you could just the teacher could select which dictate what angle you're looking at the moment. That's only 1 bandwidth, though, isn't it?
Yeah. There. All this is no problem. You can set up a switching system where you could have 3 cameras all plugged into your 1 computer, and then you can switch between them. Yeah. The teacher wouldn't. Yeah, because the teacher's teaching, but the teacher could, in effect, maybe have a foot pedal where they just, you know, click the foot pedal and go from one camera to another, depending on what they're teaching. Yeah, that would, or just have a triple system where you're getting all 3 angles at once. You know, that's yeah. And you know, 3D is already here. I don't know if you realise that, but they're now producing these screens where you don't actually need 3D glasses, but the screen is developed. It's I won't go into it, but it's so when you look at the screen, it's 3D. So yeah, so I think this is the first step for us. I think that if we can get these kind of things happening, leveraging the network, leveraging, you know, if someone like Joachim's going to do the workshops, he needs to be rewarded for that. You guys can use it to leverage and give more value to your students. But if Joachim's going to set up and do the workshops, then as far as I'm concerned, somehow he needs to be able, we want him to get money because he's going to use that money to invest it into doing an even better system. And if he gets good at doing workshops, then great. But if one of you guys does workshops and gets really good at it as well, great. It all adds to the pie, and all just adds more and more value. So when you go to sign up a student, then you're not just signing them up for a weekly lesson with you. What you're doing is you're signing them up for a whole bunch of things that they're getting. You know, participation in workshops, you know, access to videos, access to resources, you know, even access, you know, to other teachers. So, like I was saying, Ben runs a weekly show on country music, you know, country guitar styles. And people who might be learning somewhere else in the world with another teacher, they might stay hooked into the system just because they want to be able to tune into Ben's weekly show. So, and when you're running a weekly show, remember that that's also good for you and your profile, that it helps to escalate you higher up the food chain, if you like, for lack of a better example. That you can then do things. A lot of these guys, I don't know if you've seen, but a lot of these guys who are operating on, they're doing like free shows. They run these free, almost like talk shows, where they talk about particular topics. Some of them do science, some of them do politics, whatever. And what they do is they've got sponsors because they've got an audience, and it's not always a big audience. Some of them, you know, they may get. When I say, you know, you look at a TV show like Oprah or something, and she's got, you know, millions of viewers. These guys get, you know, a couple of hundred, maybe some of them, the better ones, get a couple of thousand viewers viewing to their shows. But they get sponsors, sometimes very good sponsors, because their audience is very narrow. So if you guys set up a weekly show of some description, that adds value to the rest of the network. But then what happens is that as more people view your show, let's say, you know, let's say Ben A, you've got a show on the history of classical guitar or something. and each week you feature a different piece or talk about whatever, and you start getting 1,000 people around the world tuning into your weekly program. It'll be very easy for you to go and get sponsorship from a classical guitar maker or classical string maker or Diodario or someone like that, because that's where they're heading now. They know that there are all these niche operators, and your audience are going to be loyal, and you're going to say, look, guys, to keep my program going, go out and buy Diodario strings for your guitars. I love these guys. They're great strings. I use them myself, blah, blah, blah. And that's how they keep their shows running and through sponsorship. So there's different ways of monetizing this. It's not just about taking money from the student. You can get it through marketing and advertising. That's how Google do it. That's why we've got this. This is free for us. We don't pay for this, and it's thanks to marketers and advertisers that we can have this. So thinking outside the box is what this is all about. I would really encourage, if you've got a topic that you're passionate about, I would really encourage you to do a weekly program or even a monthly program to start, and get up there for an hour and talk about it, and invite people in to see it, and invite them in for free, build up an audience, and and we can run it across the network, and they can tell their students, and we've got the platform, and the platform's growing for you to be able to get more and more of an audience. All right. Shall we leave it there? Is that enough to get us inspired for the day? Yeah. All right. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, I'm on again tonight. If any of you guys want to join. Generally, there might be a few more on tonight, I think, because of the time. A few more of the UK guys, anyway. So, all right. I'll see you later. Ben, yeah, if you got a question, go for it.
Is there no problem joining these late, I assume? Doesn't matter if you drop in after halfway through the session, because I've got to go to an induction at about 9:30. I think it's what time is it in? What time is this next hangout?
It'll be 9 p.m. Sydney time. So.
Okay, so 12 p.m. So I might get back here.
Okay.
So I'll hopefully make it for the start, but if not, I can also just drop in whenever I get back.
Yeah, as long as you can pick up on the invite, because I can't go back and I can't. I won't be looking. I don't look at my Facebook for the email when I'm doing this.
It'll just be in the inbox or in the notifications of Google, won't it? I'll find it.
Yeah, should be there as an email, I think, generally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. See you guys.
See you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Right. Bye bye.
Hope to see you in a bit, David.
See ya.